Let's kick it off, sir, with a question about your comments yesterday, when you suggested that maybe there could be a compromise on trade between the United States, Mexico and Canada, and maybe we'd hear more about that today. Has the president confirmed that? Is that still the plan?
Well, I think what happened is you have the trade ministers and all the people from Canada really working hard with our Homeland Security people. Remember, this is not a trade war. This is a drug war. We've got fentanyl still pouring into the country, and it's got to stop. So what's happened is they're showing us even more ways to try to stop the flow of fentanyl. And if they can stop the flow of fentanyl, the president is open-minded. There are going to be tariffs, let's be clear. But what he is thinking about is which sections of the market that can maybe he'll consider giving them relief until we get to, of course, April 2nd. But I don't want anybody to forget, April 2nd is the day that we announce our reciprocal tariffs around the world. And so April 2nd is coming, but this is about fentanyl this month.
Got that. Just want additional clarity. Just to be very clear on this. Yesterday when you said, I think the president's going to figure out, you do more and I'll meet you in the middle, we're probably going to announce that tomorrow, as in today. Can we no longer expect that announcement?
No, I didn't say that. I said the president is listening to the offers from Mexico and Canada. He's thinking about trying to do something in the middle. He's thinking about it. We're talking about it. We're going to, when I leave here, I'm going to go talk about it with him. And I think early this afternoon, we expect to make an announcement. And my thinking is it's going to be somewhere in the middle. So not 100% of all products and not none, somewhere in the middle, because I think Mexico and Canada are trying their best, and let's see where we end up. So I do think somewhere in the middle is a likely outcome.
When you say somewhere in the middle, do you mean somewhere in the middle on tariffs, as in somewhere between 0 and 25, or do you mean that certain groups, certain industries will just get a carve-out? And would that carve-out be, say, the autos? Because the president mentioned last night he'd spoken to the autos CEOs. Is it carve-outs we should be thinking about here?
Yeah, I think it's by product, by region. Remember, the USMCA, right, the United States, Mexico, and Canada agreement, set up some policies that said you've got to have a certain amount of U.S. content in your products to be USMCA compliant. So I think he's thinking about those categories, the USMCA compliant. And doesn't that make sense to you, right? If you complied with the agreement, then maybe you avoid tariffs. And if you didn't comply with the agreement, well, you did so at your own risk. You knew you weren't complying, and therefore it seems likely that's a place where the president will go. Again, the president gets to make the decision. I'm there talking with him about it, and so is the team. But our expectation is that it'll be categories. It will be 25%, but there will be some categories left out. It could well be autos, could be others as well. USMCA, go look at that. That was the agreement we made with US, Mexico, and Canada, saying those products are exempt. Everyone who didn't live under those terms and did so at their own risk and knew they were doing it at their own risk always.
Secretary Lutnick, good morning. Would you say right now that you think that U.S. autos like GM and Ford are compliant under USMCA?
That is my understanding, is the big three say they produce cars that are compliant under USMCA, which means they have sufficient U.S. content in them to be part of the USMCA agreement. So I think that's part of our discussion, and the president's really thinking about that.
So it's fair to assume then, especially given the constituencies of auto workers that the president was able to pick up in this past election, that it is the auto industry that could potentially get that exemption later this afternoon?
It's not really an exemption. Remember, we're trying to end fentanyl coming into the country. So we're trying to send a message that fentanyl has got to end coming in from Mexico and Canada. It's just has to end. And they've done a reasonable job on the border, and they're going to do a better job on the border. But this is, remember, it's a key about fentanyl for this month. April 2nd, we could talk about the rest. But this month, it's about fentanyl. And the president's trying to give Mexico and Canada some statements, some move forward, because they are trying their hardest, and we believe they're trying their hardest. But the fact is that we've got to put something on, because deaths in America have not decreased in a way that is sufficient. deaths of
I hear you,
fentanyl and
Mr.
opioids
Secretary.
in America.
Many families will sympathize with this remarks. Me, myself, I know families who have been at the end of the suffering when it comes to fentanyl. But yesterday, though, the president questioned the fairness of Canadian banks. So what is it about? Is it about Canada's banking system, or is it really about fentanyl?
So this month, right now, is about fentanyl. When we talk about April 2nd, we will talk about the bigger trade picture between our trading partners, Canada, and our trading partners of Mexico. So April 2nd, I'll be happy to come on and talk to you about our thinking and our thoughts about a broad trading model. But right now, it's about fentanyl. This is a drug-related issue. Drugs coming into the United States of America have got to stop. The border has got to remain closed. That's the key of how you treat your great trading partner. You treat your great trading partner with respect, and you stop letting fentanyl into the country. So my view is the president is thinking about it. He's thinking about autos. He's thinking about USMCA. He's going to come up with a plan this afternoon. We're going to announce that plan. I think it's going to be in the middle. Somewhere there's going to be 25% tariffs. It's not the middle as in a number. I think it's the middle in terms of USMCA and not USMCA. But the president will decide that this afternoon, and then we'll go on from there. But think about that. If you were compliant with USMCA, you did what President Trump asked in his last term. And if you weren't compliant, you did that at your own risk.
Secretary Lutnick, I just want to make sure that I understand this correctly. You're talking about the idea that this all has to do with the drug wars. And at the same time, some people have speculated that this could lead to a renegotiation of USMCA that would lead all around to even lower tariffs than before. Are you saying that's off the table, that tariffs are still part of this at the 25% level?
Well, remember, April 2nd, we begin our reciprocity model, which is how you treat us is how we treat you. And that is going to be part of his exemption, part of his tariff policy. And then he's got industries, autos, semiconductors, pharmaceuticals, steel and aluminum and copper, lumber. These issues need to come home. We need to help our domestic industries grow and flourish. And so he called out those product sets for extra focus. But that's April 2nd. So on April 2nd, our reciprocal trade policy will come out. In 2026, we renegotiate USMCA with Canada and Mexico, and we're going to have really clear analysis and clear focus on how that changes. But right today, let's be clear, today is about fentanyl.
We heard from last night the president. He said that he was fine with a little disturbance, but going forward, there will be all of these gains realized. Secretary Lutnick, are you concerned about the level of uncertainty expressed, not just in markets, but just even from people who you used to work with, where they're saying we don't have a clear sense of what the goal is? And I understand you're saying it'll come on April 2nd. But in the meantime, people are just putting all plans on hold.
Well, I'm not seeing all plans on hold. In fact, I'm seeing the opposite, right? We saw Apple commit to $500 billion. We saw OpenAI and Oracle commit to $500 billion of investments. TSMC just the other day saying $100 billion investment in America. SoftBank, $200 billion investment in America. So $1.3 trillion, and you think people are waiting on the sidelines? We feel it every day. All these companies are coming. They're building in America. They're committing to America. We agree April 2nd is coming. We have to do our work before we announce our plans on April 2nd. Of course, we have to do our work and do it properly and do it thoughtfully. But in this period of time, America needs a president to protect people from fentanyl. It shouldn't be killing people in our country. China still has fentanyl as a highest list of subsidies. They subsidize the production of precursors, the ingredients to fentanyl. They send it to Mexico and Canada, and into the country it comes. So our president has said, enough already. And that's why he's come up with this tariff plan today. April 2nd will be a fairness plan. And fairness plan is not that hard to figure out. If you have a
Secretary Lutnick, can I jump in there on the fairness plan? Is that an initial partial assessment and response, or will tariffs actually hit on April 2nd?
Well, there are a whole variety of laws in the United States of America that we will follow with precision. Some tariffs will come on right away, and then some tariffs will be registered, and they will take 3 weeks or 4 weeks, and they will come on in due course. So there's a process for tariffs in America, but we will announce them, and we will be negotiating with all these countries thereafter, and then they go into effect over a period of months. So basically,
because,
April 2nd, we will announce them, and then they come in.
Because there's months of studies, massive report, public opinion. This can take a very long time. So legally, there's no law that's short enough, really, to put tariffs in place on the 2nd. So how long between April 2nd until the tariffs actually hit do you think we'll see?
As I said, we launched our studies on January 20th. So April 2nd, those studies are done. Some tariffs can come straight away. Some can come weeks later. Some can take over a month or two to come online. But it will be very, very thoughtful, very organized. And we begin on April 2nd. We've announced it from January 20th. That April 2nd was the day. We're sticking with our day. We're sticking with reciprocity. It is time for America to be treated fairly. And that's what President Trump is going to do. He's going to make sure we are treated fairly. He's talked about it last night. He's made this clear. So Mexico and Canada is about fentanyl today for the month of March. But on April 2nd, it's about fairness. And yes, that is a process that comes in that is strictly specific to the laws. But it'll take over a month or 2 months to come in. But once it's in, they will stick, which is treat us fairly, treat us properly, or don't trade with us.
Mr. Secretary, I was a man of my word. I am a man of my word, and I promised we'd come back to the address last night, so let's finish there. The President of the United States talked about a big, beautiful drop in interest rates. A lot of people in this market are curious whether the President is no longer sensitive to the deadly gyrations of the equity market, that the focus, the emphasis now is on the bond market. Is that the shift? Is that the way to understand things?
No, I think that is too specific. I mean, let's face it. If we balance the budget of the United States of America, interest rates are going to come smashing down. And I don't mean 10 basis points. I mean 150 basis points. You're going to have an explosion in the housing market. You're going to have an explosion in the equity markets, because this is not a manufactured cut in interest rates like you saw last time with this huge money supply, which created the vast inflation. This is the right way to do it. You stop printing money. You stop running deficits. You balance the budget of the United States of America. You smash interest rates down. You produce enormous amounts of energy, drive those prices down, and you will see the greatest equity market and the greatest economy in the United States of America. Now, remember, this president is worried about the United States of America. Sometimes I get asked questions about, am I worried about Canada? Am I worried about Mexico? And am I worried about the EU? My president is worried about the United States of America, and you are going to see the greatest equity market and bond markets under President Trump.
Well, let's worry about the American data right now, because equities have rolled over just a little bit. You know the market well. I won't make a big deal of it. We're just a bit softer at the back of this data from ADP, which is a downside surprise at 77K. The estimate was 140, so we're sub 100. We'll see what we get on the ISM later on this morning and on payrolls on Friday. But as you know, Mr. Secretary, the data over the last few weeks hasn't been great. The survey data has been softer, and a lot of these companies in these surveys have pointed to tariff uncertainty. Do you accept that the business community needs some clarity? Or whether it's 25, 15, 10, whatever the number is going to be, that the volatility around the trade story, the cumulative effect of persistent uncertainty is starting to eat into this economy a little bit?
No way. I mean, the president spoke about it last night. He said Biden left him a pile of poop. Okay, he left him a lousy economy that he's trying to fix. You're looking at data that's Biden data. Do not try to besmirch my President Trump with Biden's nonsense.
You think the ISM manufacturing number is Biden data? I just want to be very clear. That's your opinion. You're entitled to it. You think that's his data and not yours?
Of course it's my opinion.
Okay.
What possible could change? Seriously, we are in early March. My president took over January 20th. You think economic data coming out in early March is Donald Trump-related data?
Monthly survey data?
You got to be kidding
Mr.
me.
Secretary,
Stop it.
Are you suggesting, we don't have to get into an argument about it, are you suggesting that when bond yields drop, in a market that's worth trillions of dollars and investors place bets off the back of that economic data, that data doesn't count for anything, that data is somehow misleading?
I think that data is leading you to understand if Joe Biden was still in charge, you'd be in trouble. But you have a new president, there's a new sheriff in town, and I would bet on the economic growth that is coming from Donald Trump. You see the investments. You see it already. There's trillions of dollars of manufacturing moving to America. It's moving to America. That means the cavalry is coming. For every $1 trillion that invests in the United States of America, that produces 1% of GDP growth. Imagine that. You have a president bringing GDP growth directly to his economy. That's amazing.